Do you think higher incentives in December? Typically, in December is when you see the highest incentives from manufacturers. Some manufacturers could pull back a little bit, but we shall see. I just know historically, December is the best month to buy new vehicles because that's when manufacturers put the largest incentives on those vehicles.
And I would echo that in the used car market because that's the slowest time that we're going to have all year round. And a lot of used car dealers are burdened by their floor plans. A lot of these big franchise dealers, they can stomach a few months of being slow and being able to roll over floor plans or whatever. But a lot of these small used car dealers, like us, we have 91 cars right now. If we had a floor plan and if we had to pay floor plan on 91 cars, that would be a lot of money for us to have to be able to fork out every single month. So a lot of these small used car dealers that are on floor plans that have inventory that's stacking up when they can't sell around the holiday season, they have to move some metal to be able to even just pay their interest payments that they have racking up on their floor plans. I will say that what's right around the corner and what a lot of used cars dealers will prepare for is tax time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's end of February. So even starting around mid-December or whatever, a lot of used car dealers will start trying to stack up on inventory, and maybe sometimes they shouldn't. and it gets into a position where, okay, maybe we bought too much. We thought we were going to still be able to sell some cars, and it just doesn't happen. So they have to get rid of some cars, whether it be discounting cars to their customers. Usually that's not the case, though. What they'll end up doing is they will dump a lot of cars at auctions just for whatever they can get them. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but auctions are money today. And a customer might not necessarily, if they lower their price by a few $1,000s, 10%, 20%, or whatever, it doesn't mean it's going to get sold immediately. But if they take it to auction, they will get a check that day for that car. So that's why a lot of dealers will go the route of dumping it at auction versus cutting the price to try to get a customer to buy it.
I have a question for you. Historically speaking, do you find that used car wholesale values are lower the middle part of December or so that if you want to start stocking up for tax season, that it's a good time if you're well heeled enough as a used car dealer to be able to take advantage of that?
Yeah, cars starting about right now, mid of November till the end of January will be the cheapest they are all year round. And so what we do is we buy as many cars. We're starting to get as many cars right now as we can. My mechanic Alex, who buys a lot of cars for me, I've already taken the reins off of him. I told him to buy everything he sees. So we typically throughout the year will, if it's not a particularly fast time of year, we'll have between 65 to 75, maybe 80 cars in stock. And right now I got 91 and we just started. So by the end of February, what I would love to have is 150, 200 cars. If I can find 200 cars to have for tax time, I want them because I will sell them all in about a 10-day span. As soon as tax checks hit, we'll move every single one of those cars. And it happens so quickly. We'll go through a whole week where we'll do double digits. And at my small car dealership, we'll do double digits in sales for 6 days in a row.
Wow.
And it'll do that for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, whatever, until we run out of cars. And that's usually the case. Usually the cars run out before the money runs out for us, just because we're positioned so well and our cars are so cheap and they just hit that right niche for the people that are getting their tax checks. And there's a lot of other dealers that do just like me, but they're reactionary. So they don't do it. They don't start trying to buy cars until they start selling the first of their cars. And we try to do it the smart way, which is buy all the cars before the prices go up at auction, because it seems like it surprises these dealers every single year. And I don't know why, but tax checks come and they come every single year. The government's never held them back, not 1 year. So
well, I'm 73 and I don't ever recall the IRS saying, well, we're not giving any refunds this year. And I know people desperately want those refunds and typically are more than willing to spend those refunds as they come in and utilize them either to buy a car cash like what you sell or use those refunds as a down payment on something else. So uh, kudos to you for realizing you're better off buying the stuff now and being able to sit on it for a while. It's kind of like smart dealers are buying convertibles and sports cars this time of year because they can buy them cheaper and just hold on to them till springtime when they can make the most money on them. So it's kind of like you doing that.
Yeah, and the IRS is never on time. They're either early or they're late, but they always ship those checks out, and those people always come and bring me their money and buy a car. So that's just how it works. And we'll make about 25% of what we'll make all year long in about 10 to 15 days.
Wow, that's crazy stuff. That really is. I need to figure out how to do that.
It's a lot of work, and if I had to start all over again, I probably wouldn't. I would find something else. Yeah, but it's taken a long time to get it to where we have it now, and the systems that we have in place, the people we have in place. It's a way easier now than what it was, but I wouldn't want to go through that first 5 to 10 years again. I would find a different profession.
So, so if I hear you correctly, you're saying it's much easier to accept those burdens when you're younger than it is as you get slightly older.
Well, and the market's changed so much. It used to be fun, Ray. I
Yeah,
used to enjoy going to the car auctions. We could go to these little country auctions, and they would have tons of cars, and I had my pick. If there was a car I wanted, I was able to buy it. And there were plenty of cars at all these auctions where you didn't have to fight each other. You would have friends at these auctions that me and some 3 other dealers would buy the same kind of cars, and
yeah.
we'd all be standing in a group, and there'll be this one Ford Taurus that's coming through, and all 4 of us wanted it. And I'd just be like, okay, well, you got the last one. Can I have this one? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you just take this one. And I'll be able to buy it for $700-800. Now it's not the case. It's all, I mean, you gotta almost fist fight somebody to buy a 2002 Ford Taurus with 150,000 miles on it. And that's everything used to be buddy buddy in the market. You used to be able to, I mean, talk about what you bought, and what your approach was. Give your buddies tips on what you need to price stuff for. It's not like that anymore. It's all cutthroat now, and I hate it. I
Well,
hate it.
well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry it has gotten that way for you, um, but it always has been pretty much a cutthroat industry. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, I get it, but there was inventory to support. If you wanted to be a nice guy, you could still be a nice guy
Yeah,
because the inventory would support it. But over the last 4 years, inventory has been it's made it so hard. Even right now, like if we want to we're trying to load it for tax time. Like we used to be able to do everything we wanted to do, buy 150 cars and load it for tax time and do it through 2 auctions. And now, if we want to do that, we're going to have to go to at least 3 or 4 auctions and travel and get. I mean, it's a hassle to get transport. It's a hassle to find people that want to work, that enjoy doing this kind of business. It's everything's gotten harder. Every facet of this business has gotten difficult. Luckily for me, I've been able to find the right team members
hmm
that I've been able to put them in the right places where it's gotten easier on us to run the business because we're able to change what we're focusing on. And it's only because of the rock star team that we have. So the operations, everything about the business has gotten more difficult, but running the business has gotten a little easier just because of the people that we have in place. So that's one benefit, one blessing that we do have, and it's just because we have the right people in the right places.
do you see different people showing up at the auctions than you had in the past? People that you would have never seen before are suddenly showing up at the sales that you normally went to that attracted um, uh, the same type of buyer that you were. Suddenly there's new people showing up trying to participate in that market?
I will tell you, one of my honey holes that I've shown on YouTube, I've got some new dealers showing up. And look, if you're watching this, stay away from my auction. There's been some guys show up that have only found out about the auction about through YouTube. So I appreciate you being a fan and watching our video, but stay out of my cars, please. But no, okay, going back to, but yeah. So as inventory has dried up, and at auctions it is still dry because we're not getting trade-ins from these new car dealers because they're just not selling cars.
Mm-hmm.
Dealers have to do exactly what we're doing, and we have to hit every single auction. And we have dealers that travel from a long way away. I got a buddy from he's around, like, I think Charleston, South Carolina.
Wow.
He comes up here to around Charlotte to hit all these auctions around here so he can actually find cars for his car lot. And he doesn't have a massive car lot. He's got, he keeps like 20, 25, 30 cars. But it's just for him to find quality cars at good prices, he's got to hit a bunch of different auctions to be able to check a bunch of different cars to actually find the ones that he can make money on. And it's gotten harder for a lot of car dealers just like him, just like me, because if you want to find, the right cars for your customers, you got to sift through a whole bunch of trash. We talk about people holding on to their cars longer. It's 100% true. And it's hitting the cars that we're getting because people, instead of trading cars because they want to trade, a lot of times they're trading cars because they have to. And they have to because their car is a piece of junk and it's coming to us. Yeah, and it's worn out.
We know that September was an off month for your store.
We would call it poopy. That's what we would call it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was being kind. We know that October was starting out as a really good month for you. I'm assuming it probably ended pretty well. What are you seeing so far in the first 10 or 11 days of November?
Yeah, so to give you just reference around this, September, we lost about $10,000 from operations, and we don't lose money. Yes. I can't even remember. I think when we opened up a second location in 1 month and got into a new location was probably the last time that we ever lost money. And I think even then we lost.
It was negligible. It was less than 10.
Yeah, it was like maybe $2,000-$3,000 we lost, and that was years and years and years. This before the pandemic,
and that was because we had ridiculous expenses in that 1 month from the move.
Anyway, saying all that, we don't lose money, and we lost $10,000 in September. It was the worst month that I'll go ahead and put a stamp on it. It's the worst month that we've ever had.
Okay,
and I've been in business for 13 years. So, and then we came back in October and we had a great month. But we did great in October. I'm hoping that September was just a blip. November is actually not starting out great for us. We've got a lot more inventory coming in right now. And I really think that it's probably going to be a month that we actually make money on. But I'm very cautious about it because November is typically not great for us. And December is typically very, very bad for us. So we're I'm very interested to see how it comes out, but it doesn't look great. It doesn't look bad also.
Well, it sounds like people are struggling to a degree, and part of it I would attribute, if there's a slowness to the beginning of the month, I would attribute that to the election. People just wanted to finally get through the election. And then I think people have limited funds, and it's the time of year where those limited funds come into play.
All right, you might not know this, but this is a brand new channel, and you know what we need for you to do? We need you to subscribe, because if you're watching this, I can see the numbers. You're not subscribed, so just hit that button for us. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it really helps us out. All right, so Ray, we know that dealers take all kinds of ways and methods and tactics to be able to take advantage of consumers. And the obvious are dealer markups. We have nitrogen in tires. We have paint protectant. We have ways for dealers to suck money out of consumers on the front end, anything that's associated with the actual selling of the vehicle. But what a lot of consumers don't realize is that they're getting taken advantage of on the back end when we talk about finance, when we talk about insurance, when they're going back in the back office and they don't necessarily know even what rates they're getting. They don't know what they're even being charged when they sit down to sign that final paperwork. But you and your company, Car Edge, you've recently done a survey to show that there's a lot of improvement that needs to happen in this area. So I just want to hear from you what you guys found when you were doing this survey.
What we found is that the better informed a customer is before they go to a dealership, understanding the process, understanding what others have paid, the better informed a customer is before they involve themselves, the greater the likelihood that they're going to be satisfied with their purchase. Okay, that they are going to say, I enjoyed the experience. The dealer lived up to what they said they were going to do. The price that they gave me was the price that I paid. The one downfall that we found in the survey was that many people, I think it was 20% of the public, felt that they were being pressured when they were in the finance and insurance office finishing up their paperwork for their deals, that they were being pressured to buy other products that are typically sold in finance. Extended warranties, dent and ding repair, tire and wheel, things of that nature. And not only did they feel pressured, and what they felt most pressured about was that they weren't given a clear understanding as to what they were actually paying or being asked to pay for these items. And the way that's normally done is the F&I person will just talk to you about how it influences the payment, how it changes the payment from X to Y, as opposed to the customer saying, but what am I actually paying for it? And so that was an area in the survey that we saw that could help improve the overall buying experience at most dealerships. So not only is it important for a customer to be well informed, but it is important for the dealership to accept the premise that if somebody asks, how much are you charging me for something, or even provide them with the how much you're charging without them ever having to ask, would help to improve the process further.
That almost reminds me of when you see these kind of scammy commercials when they're talking about how much you're going to pay for this stuff, and they say, "Well, for just the price of a cup of coffee a day,
Yes,
you'll be able to get
yes.
this." It almost feels like that in the F&I office because they're not saying how much the product costs. They're saying, well, it's going to add this $28 to your payment a month, and it feels really scammy when you boil it down to something like this. And I know that okay, there's going to be less regulation that's coming up through the government. I hate talking politics, but it seems like we have to talk about them more and more and more with things that are going to change in the system with the new administration. But from my understanding from you is that this new CARS Act that's supposed to come out and help a lot of this, you feel like it's not going to happen now because we're going to go into an administration that has less regulation, that's going to regulate businesses less and less and less and less. So I appreciate that Car Edge is able to go and get this information for the consumers, but at the end of the day, do you feel like it's on the FTC to make sure these dealers are actually telling people what they are buying? And now, do you feel like it's just off the table at this point that that this is going to be able to really help consumers because of the administration that's coming in?
Do you want my honest answer?
Yeah, always.
Okay. My honest answer is that as small as we are, I think it's up to Car Edge. And what I mean by that is it is up to what we're doing at Car Edge to ultimately convince dealers that it is better for not only them, but their customer as well. So that to depend on the government to do something for us is, well, that's just being lazy, because the government has proven over my lifetime for sure that, yeah, they can come up with rules and regulations, but if they can't come up with the enforcement, it doesn't really matter. It just makes for a nice conversation. So it what that means to me, or indicates to me, is that the private sector has to do something about it. Now, how does the private sector do that? I don't know. We think of ourselves at Car Edge as somewhat as disruptors in how business is done. And so what do? We help to educate customers as to how the process works and what to look out for, so that they're better prepared, so that they have the knowledge to know how to counteract some of the things that they're going to encounter when they're at the dealership. But it is also our responsibility at Car Edge to convince dealer principals that ultimately it makes greater business sense for them to do it the right way as opposed to the wrong way. Now, will we be able to make enough inroads in my lifetime? Probably not. But my son's not even 30 yet. Okay, he's 29 years old. I don't know that he wants to do this forever and ever and ever, but I do know that he wants to have an impact on the industry and make it better for both dealers and customers. So I know this year he's planning on going to the NADA convention, so that he can be introduced and meet more dealers and talk to more vendors and give more people reasons why it makes sense. Because our survey showed that the better educated the customer was, the happier they were with their experience, and the more likely they were to do business with that dealer again. Well, if you're in business of selling things, as you are, you'd rather sell many cars to a few people than one car to everybody. Um, because it's much cheaper to keep customers than to go out and find new ones. So if your customers can become raving fans of your business, then it makes sense to do that. And that's part of our job, I think, at Car Edge, is to educate dealerships, dealer principals, corporate heads of publicly traded companies that this is beneficial for them to do it this way as opposed to the old way. Did that make any sense?
Yeah. And I've got the biggest question that's surrounding this whole thing. So they use this stock picture of just some hands and something signing it. Why is your face not on this thing?
I don't know. My son's face was lower down in the article, looking like the CEO that he is.
You know what he looks like? He looks like all those the young pictures of like Zuckerberg. Whenever
he looks like
flannel shirt,
a young tech CEO. Yeah,
that's exactly what it looks like.
And, I mean. It's just we appreciate the fact that we did the survey and that Automotive News wanted to interview Zach about it and wanted to highlight it, because it brings greater credibility to what we're doing. But ultimately, it's our job and not the government's job to convince dealers that there's a better way.
100%, I agree. And I think even if the regulation stays, and now I just went to a dealer class recently, and even with the election coming up, this was before the election, my instructor, who is very dealer friendly and plugged into the space, he's over the CIADA, which is like the Carolinas Independent Auto Dealer Association. So that's over North Carolina and South Carolina. he still thought the Cars Act was going to happen no matter what, and that it was going to create a big problem for dealers. So in his opinion, no matter what, it was still going to happen. But I think either way, whether it happens or it doesn't, I think enforcement's going to be a big problem. And then I think even if they do enforce it and they do make big examples of some big dealerships to make other dealerships change, I think dealers are just going to find another loophole like they always do around to scam individuals. So I don't, as much as I wish it would come through and it would do what it says it's going to do, I don't think dealers are going to cooperate because they're just going to find another way.
And there's great talk that there's going to be a group put together, and I think it's Vivek Ramesham, I can't say his last name, and Elon, and they're going to look at how we can cut some waste out of the federal government spending. Because
it might be FTC, might be on the front of that.
Well, they could, but my guess is that there will be cuts everywhere, and you can still have the rules on the books, but if there's no people at the FTC that can take care of the enforcement action, then it's a moot point. And so if budgets are going to be a lot smaller than what they had been, because we cut out waste, then it needs to come from someone other than the government. Somebody's got to educate dealers that there's a better way and show them what the better way is and how ultimately that makes them more money. Because let's face it, that's all they care about is how much money.
Yeah, but that's the long play. Nobody wants the long play. They want the money right now.
Yeah, but my son wants the long play, and I want the long play. I couldn't affect the change to really change the industry. I worked at a number of dealerships, and I could affect minimal changes at the dealerships that I worked at. It was always like taking baby steps. But I figured even at baby steps, we were better that day than the day before we took that step. We weren't anywhere near perfect yet, but it was a move in the right direction. And it is hard to change the perceptions of the people who have made the investment and own the dealership to try and do something differently than what they're used to. It all goes back to people being resistant to change. And dealer principals are no different. If they know that the way they've been doing things has brought them a certain type of results, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, it's the results way that matters to them. And so somehow they have to be convinced that the results could actually be better and worth taking that risk than continuing to do it the way that they do it. And that's a hard that's a hard lift.
All right. Here's a serious question for you.
Yeah.
Why is Automotive News not sponsored us yet?
I don't know. I guess I guess I could have Zach ask him.
I'm honestly surprised they haven't tried to sponsor you guys' live show. You know what? They don't need to because it's the only place we pull our information.
Well, and it is the main industry publication. It is the Bible of the industry. And I mean, I've probably been reading Automotive News. I've had a subscription to Automotive News off and on for over 50 years. So, I knew very early on when I got into the business, I would see an Automotive News get delivered to the dealership every week. It used to show up on Thursdays or Fridays, and it was like the dealership's copy. So I took out a subscription card in one of them and filled it out so that I created my own subscription, because I figured if I was going to have a long history in the industry, I needed to know as much about it as I could, and well, that I should subscribe to the industry publication. And let me tell you, when I first started, it was you didn't get it every week. It was 100 pages long or 120 pages long, not
No.
36 pages. It was everything you needed to know. And so if you're ever serious about whatever field it is you want to go into, well, you need to avail yourself of what that Bible is for that industry, what that field is. And don't wait on your employer to subscribe for you. Subscribe yourself.
Yeah, so automotive news. Ray has been loyal to you for 86 years. So here's the thing. You could give us a little money. Just send me an email and we'll come up with a partnership and you guys can officially sponsor us.
Yeah, that'd be
There you go.
fine.